Okay, so this video is going to go into how to graph a sine wave. I'm going to again be going back and forth a little between the Desmos online graphing calculator and this whiteboard. Okay, so here is the problem we're going to start with. Y equals 2 times the sine of 2x plus pi over 3, parentheses, plus 1. Okay, so you'll notice here, right, that you have in the original kind of given form, right, we have this b pulled out from and separated, factored out of this x minus c form, right? So we need to do that here, right, because right now we just have b times x plus the c, right? We need it to be b and then in parentheses, x minus c. So we have to factor out this too, okay? So in order to do that, I'm going to go over here to the right. So I'm going to take this whole term, this 2x plus pi over 3, and I'm going to divide 2 on each term, okay? So 2x, and I'm going to rewrite this as this b times x minus c. So it becomes 2 times x, right? 2x divided by x is x. And then pi over 3 divided by 2 is going to be pi over 6, right? Because pi over 2 divided by 2 is really pi over 3 times 1/2, right? We keep our top fraction. We change division to multiplication, and we flip our bottom fraction. Okay, so this becomes pi over 6. Okay, so this is 2 times x plus pi over 6, right? And just like we wanted to pull out that, factor out that 2, I also want to get this in terms of x minus c. Right? And so to find out exactly what that c is, right? So 2 times x, this plus changes to minus a negative. Change your plus to minus a negative, okay? So x minus negative pi over 6, okay? And so I'm just going to rewrite this as y equals 2 times the sine of 2 times x minus a negative pi over 6 plus 1. And so now I know what my a, my b, my c, and my d are, right? So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to write a equals 2, b equals 2, c equals negative pi over 6, and d equals 1. Okay? All right, so we have steps in order to graph this, right? So my first step is step 1. I'm going to graph y equals the sine of 2x, right? I'm going to just look at what that b is and determine, right? Because your b affects your period, right? So this period, remember, becomes 2 pi over b, right? And again, my b is 2. So this becomes 2 pi over 2, which means that my period is just pi, okay? So what that means is that I have 1 cycle on pi period, or pi period, right? So from my x values of 0 to pi, I'm going to have 1 sine wave, okay? And I'm going to also determine what my important points are, right? So the new period is pi, right? So to determine your important points, you divide your period by 4. So pi over 4. And so that means that my first x value should be 0, and then I'm going to do 0 plus pi over 4, okay, and then which is just pi over 4. So then this becomes pi over 4 plus pi over 4, which is 2 pi over 4. Right? And so now I'm going to have 2 pi over 4 plus pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 4. And then I'm going to have 3 pi over 4 plus pi over 4, which is 4 pi over 4, right? And when I reduce all of those, so now I have 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and pi. And so these are all my x values that are like our kind of important points that we have with starting point, our maximum, we go back to the midpoint, down to the minimum, and I'm going to go into the Desmos graphing calculator, and you can kind of see what this will look like, right? So we're graphing y equals sine of 2x, okay? And so you can see over here that, right, this is 0, 0. Then we have pi over 4, 1. We have pi over 2, 0. 3 pi over 4, 1, negative 1. Pi 0, right? And so this is my one sine cycle, right, from 0 to pi, right, because, again, our period changed. And these are our 5 important points, right? So our starting point, our maximum, our midline, minimum, back to the midline, okay? All right, so let's go back and figure out the next step, okay? So your next step step 2 is to deal with your amplitude, right? So the amplitude is equal to 2, right? And so what that means is that my range goes from -2 to +2, right? And so I'm going to go into the Desmos graphing calculator, right? And this was our starting point, right? This is where we started. You could see all of these. This is the sine of 2x. It goes from 0, 0, then it goes up to pi over 4, 1, and then down here is 3 pi over 4, -1, right? So what we're going to do now is change this to y equals 2 times the sine of 2x. And you'll see, right, so the difference is the red line is what we started with, and now our blue line has the amplitude of 2. So instead of going only up to 1, we go up to +2, and we go down to a -2. Okay, all the other points are the same, except now we've just stretched our graph a little. Okay, and so I'm going to take away that original sine of 2x graph. Now we just have what our amplitude is. Okay, and so these 5 important points, right, now are, I'm going to write them with my y values as well. So 0, 0. We have pi over 4, 2. We have pi over 2, 0. We have 3 pi over 4, -2. And we have pi 0. Okay, so now our step 3 is our phase shift. Okay, so this is where it starts kind of getting a little more difficult. So our phase shift, remember, is our C. So our C was -pi over 6. And remember, our phase shift, so it moves horizontally, right? Okay, so a phase shift of -pi over 6 means we have to change our x-axis, our x values. So change the x values. Okay, our 0, we're going to subtract pi over 6. and our pi over 4 is going to subtract pi over 6. And our pi over 2, we're going to subtract pi over 6. So we're going to subtract pi over 6 from each of our x values. What was it? 3 pi over 4 minus pi over 6. And then pi minus pi over 6. Okay? And so these are our new x values. And the y values stay the same with them. Okay? So this becomes negative pi over 6. And then we have pi over 12, pi over 3, 7 pi over 12, and 5 pi over 6. Okay, so these are the x values that we have now. I had done them previously, so but if you are having trouble subtracting those fractions, let me know and we can go over that also. Okay. And so again, right, we're going to go into the Desmos graphing calculator, and I'm going to now change this. This becomes y equals 2 times the sine of 2 times x minus, or x plus pi over 6. Okay? And you can see, right, the green line, right, it has become, so now our first starting point is negative pi over 6, 0, right? Our point up here, our highest point, our maximum is pi over 12, 2. Our midline is pi over 3, 0. Our minimum is 7 pi over 12, negative 2. And back to our midline is 5 pi over 6, 0. Okay, so those have become now our 5 important points, right? We've shifted our graph a little to the left from by pi over 6 values to the left. Okay, all right, and I'm going to get rid of that old blue line. Okay, all right, so now we're in step 4. Okay. Oh, so just to go over, right? So with step 3, your phase shift, right? I really want you to recognize that what you did was you did your x value plus c. Okay. So all of your x values. So x 0, x1, x2, x3, x4, x5. You added your c to that, right? Here our c happened to be negative 6, so we did a negative pi over 6, sorry. So we did x minus pi over 6, okay? All right, and now our step 4 is our vertical shift, right? So this is our vertical shift. And so this is our d equals plus 1. So here in our phase shift, we did x plus c. Here we're going to do y plus 1. So all of our y values are going to go up by 1, right? So instead of having negative pi over 6, 0, we're going to have 0 plus 1, right? And instead of having pi over 12, 2, we're going to do 2 plus 1, right? And we would have pi over 3 was back to 0, so 0 plus 1. And then we have 7 pi over 12, and that's negative 2 plus 1. And we have 5 pi over 6, and that was a 0 plus 1. So this becomes negative pi over 6, 1, pi over 12, 3, pi over 3, 1, 7 pi over 12, negative 1, and 5 pi over 6, 1. Okay, and our Desmos graphing calculator, I'm just going to add 1 to this, and you can see it just shifted everything up. I'm going to quickly do y equals 1. So you can kind of see now this is our new kind of